Judge ahead of corruption trial verdict tomorrow. And with less than 150 left in the wild, it is a race against time to save the Malayan Tigers. That's coming up. Former Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad has been admitted to the National Heart Institute (IJN) as precautionary measure after testing positive for COVID-19 this morning. A statement by his office said he has been placed under observation for the next few days.
No further details were released regarding his condition. On December 16th last year, the 97-year-old was admitted to IJN for a full medical checkup. Less than a month after, he was back in IJN for an elective medical procedure and was discharged 6 days later. Mahathir had close shaves with COVID-19 in March 2020 when he came into close contact with Bandar Kuching MP Dr. Kelvin Yee, as well as in July 2021 with one of his officers. Both tested positive for the virus.
Datin Sri Rosmah Mansor has filed an application to disqualify High Court Judge Justice Muhammad Zaini Mazlan from presiding over her corruption trial. The judge is scheduled to deliver his decision at the end of the defence's case tomorrow. The 11th hour application was filed on Tuesday afternoon, following the publication of a leaked draft judgment by blogger Raja Petra Kamarudin. The application claimed the High Court judge could be influenced as the purported judgment was written by a third party. The Chief Registrar's Office of the Federal Court has lodged a report over the alleged leak, saying it was a deliberate attempt to compromise the integrity of the court's operation and administration of justice. Rosmah is charged with soliciting 187.5 million ringgit to help Jepak Holdings Sdn Berhad secure a 1.25 billion ringgit solar hybrid project involving rural schools in Sarawak. She also faces 2 other charges of receiving bribes amounting to 6.5 million ringgit between 2016 and 2017. Datuk Sri Azalina Othman Said said she is still the Prime Minister's Special Advisor on Law and Human Rights. She denied rumours circulating in the media yesterday that she had quit the post.
Azalina issued a statement on the matter on her Facebook. Several news outlets had reported Azalina's resignation as the PM's advisor, following rumours circulating on Twitter. The Pengerang MP was appointed by Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob as the Special Advisor for Law and Human Rights in October 2021, soon after she stepped down as the Dewan Rakyat Deputy Speaker. Azalina, who is also an UMNO Supreme Council member, recently courted controversy when she questioned the appointment of the current Attorney General at an UMNO gathering.
The special report on the death of firefighter Muhammad Adib Muhammad Qasim has been completed and will be presented to the Cabinet in September. De facto Law Minister Datuk Sri Wan Junaidi Tuanku Jaafar said that the government had received the full report yesterday.
The report details Muhammad Adib's cause of death, interviews of witnesses, as well as reviews of investigative documents carried out by the Special Committee. On September 27, 2019, the Coroner's Court ruled that Adib's death was due to a criminal act perpetrated by more than 2 unidentified individuals. The fireman sustained serious injuries during a commotion at the Sri Mahamariamman Temple in Subang Jaya on November 27, 2018. He passed away 3 weeks later.
Police are investigating PKR Deputy President Rafizi Ramli for his comments about Datuk Dr. Abdul Latif Ahmad over the littoral combat ship LCS scandal. This is after a police report was lodged by Abdul Latif's special officer yesterday. In a Facebook post, the minister in the Prime Minister's department said Rafizi's allegations were aimed at smearing his reputation and inciting the people against him. He was referring to Rafizi's naming of one Zainab Muhammad Saleh, which he linked to an offshore company that LCS funds were allegedly channeled to. Rafizi had also claimed that Zainab was the second wife of Abdul Latif. The Mersing MP has repeatedly denied the woman was his wife and that none of his family members were involved in the procurement of the 6 LCS. A latest survey by Perhilitan revealed that there are less than 150 Malayan tigers left in the wild. It is a race against time to protect the last of our national icon, says Dr. Samsudin Musa, project manager for improving connectivity in the Central Forest Spine.
One of the projects that we are trying to do is to maintain the habitat or maintain the connectivity within those large landscapes. So we are trying to improve the connectivity within the large landscape so that animals can cross between the large landscape and that will support their survival. They can look for food and so on. We are trying to improve the quality of the forest within those corridors, which connects those two large landscapes through planting of trees, and as well as ensuring that those areas that are there, which are forests, are being maintained as forests. And those areas that are not protected as forests, for example, there are state land forests within the ecological corridors. We try to make an effort to gazette those areas as permanent reserve forests. Once it's gazetted as permanent reserve forest, then it will be protected under the law. So the habitat will not be disturbed, and that will support the survival of the tigers and all other wildlife as well.
Samsudin also highlighted loopholes in wildlife enforcement taken advantage by poachers.
To empower forestry and state parks officers, to empower for them to use the Wildlife Act. Right now, what happens is the forestry department is able to enforce their laws within the forest reserves, while the state park is only able to enforce their laws within the state park. So once poaching, the poachers or anything goes out of the forest reserves, although they have done their job in the forest reserve and they go out, or they've done the job of poaching in the state park and they go out, the forestry department and the state park people will not have powers to arrest. So right now, under this project, they have been empowered under the Wildlife Conservation Act. So what this does is they can empower the wildlife conservation beyond the borders of the forest reserves of state parks. So this is a new initiative under this project, a very novel one. The provisions are already there under the Wildlife Act. It's just that it has never been used.
As we celebrate Merdeka today, we must also commemorate August 31st as the day Sabah marked the end of colonial rule and granted self-government in 1963. Tonight on Consider This, we speak to 3 activists about advocating for equal access to education for every child in Sabah. We'll go for a quick break. Stay with us.
Keluarga ini membayar RM290 untuk satu malam di hotel. Keluarga ini membayar RM240 semalam untuk bilik yang sama. Bagaimana? Trivago memaparkan harga daripada ratusan laman tempahan di seluruh dunia, memudahkan anda membandingkan tawaran. Hotel Trivago.
COVID-19 memperlihatkan kepada kita betapa pantasnya adaptasi teknologi di kalangan PKS kita. Niaga AWANI dan Unify Business akan menyelami perjalanan kebangkitan semula PKS kita melalui segmen Jiwa SME setiap Selasa dan Khamis untuk inspirasi anda.
Transformasikan perniagaan dengan Unify Business, rakan digital pilihan anda. Hubungi kami sekarang dan jimat sehingga 50%. Jom Unify Business.
Welcome back. Mikhail Gorbachev, the last leader of the Soviet Union, died in Moscow today at the age of 91. Gorbachev came into power in 1985 while his country was in a Cold War with the US and the West. But in 6 years, he lifted the Iron Curtain and ended the Cold War without bloodshed. Russia's Central Clinic Hospital said Gorbachev had been suffering from a long and serious illness. Gorbachev changed the course of modern history by triggering the demise of the USSR and allowing Eastern Europe to free itself from Soviet rule, earning him accolades in the West, but the scorn of many Russians, with some blaming him for the years of turmoil that ensued. World leaders were quick to pay tribute to Gorbachev's legacy, including UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, US President Joe Biden, and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. Reports have suggested Gorbachev had a strained relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin, who had also expressed his deepest condolences on Gorbachev's passing. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has apologized for his party's links with the controversial Unification Church, vowing to win back public trust. He said the ruling Liberal Democratic Party (LDP) will make it party policy to sever all ties to the church, which has faced renewed scrutiny following ex-Premier Shinzo Abe's assassination.
政治家側には社会的に問題が指摘される団体との付き合いには厳格な慎重さが求められます。私の政権における大臣、副大臣、政務官については自ら当該団体との関係の点検を行うとともに関係を断つことの確約を得たところです。
Kishida's apology comes amid sliding approval ratings despite of a cabinet reshuffle on August 10th. He also faces persistent opposition to hold a $1.8 million state funeral for Abe, a move he has defended. Abe, Japan's longest-serving prime minister, was fatally shot on a campaign trail last month. His suspected assassin bore a grudge against the church, alleging it bankrupted his mother and blamed Abe for promoting it. Tourists will be allowed to visit Japan next week on package tours without a guide, a significant step toward the full resumption of tourism. Japan will also raise its daily cap on the number of people allowed to enter the country from 20,000 to 50,000 starting September 7th. The move announced by Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, however, does not allow for entry of individual tourists. The Premier also did not lay out any changes for visa restrictions that place a high bar for entering the country. Visitors will still be required to book their trips through agents and obtain visas. Japan has kept strict border restrictions in place longer than many other major economies and only in June began allowing tourists to visit on the condition they came in tour groups accompanied by guides. Senior officials from the G20 economies have gathered in Bali for talks on climate change. Host Indonesia warned that failure to work together to cut emissions would push the planet toward uncharted territory.
Opportunity to convey my highest appreciation to you all.
Bakar said countries must jointly address global warming or see the planet pushed to a point where no future will be sustainable. The G20 climate meeting comes as extreme weather events, fires, floods and heat waves pummel parts of the world, including unprecedented flooding in Pakistan in recent weeks that has killed at least 1,000 people. In their closed-door meetings, the G20 environment ministers will seek ways to increase efforts to control climate change. They are also looking into preventing a 1.5 degrees Celsius rise in global temperatures in line with the Paris Agreement. The group of 20 major economies represents about 75% of the world's total greenhouse gas emissions. U.S. space agency NASA says it will try to launch its new moon rocket on Saturday. It had to call off the launch on Monday due to an engine issue during the countdown, when one of 4 engines would not cool down to its required operating temperature. After reviewing data, engineers say the issue is likely related to an inaccurate sensor reading and that they can develop a strategy to deal with the problem on launch day. The new Space Launch System, or SLS, moon rocket is the most powerful vehicle ever developed by NASA. It is part of NASA's Artemis project, which aims to return astronauts to the moon after a 50-year absence. This first Artemis mission, however, will not carry any crew. The SLS will be carrying the Orion capsule, which will make a month-long journey around the moon before heading back to Earth. If all goes as hoped, the SLS will blast off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida on Saturday afternoon during a 2-hour launch window that opens at 2:17 a.m. Malaysia time. That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching.